Hello everyone, welcome. This is the first episode of the Andrew Woodhouse show. I am he, and this is me. My name's Andrew, 34 years old, from West Yorkshire in England. It is 11:48 on the 20th of August, which is Tuesday. And yeah, I'm a little bit nervous. I've done a lot of YouTube over the years. I've done a lot of broadcasting, commentary, streaming, things like that, but this is the first time that I'm really truly going it alone, so welcome. Thanks for being here, and we're going to have a lot of fun together. We're going to talk about sports, we're going to talk about life, gaming maybe even, but mostly sports for now. Potentially some special guests soon as well in a couple of weeks, once I sort of get all my stuff together and figure out what I'm doing. So that's one thing. But yeah, just a quick introduction to me. Told you sort of who I am, where I'm from. So what background do I have in sport, you may ask? Well, as you can see, Leeds United through and through. I have been all my life. So we are going to get sort of some regular talk about Leeds United here. So if you love them or you hate them, which usually it's one or the other, then this channel might be for you. Formula One is also one of my huge passions. That will be covered here too, as will some Major League Baseball, some NFL, potentially golf, cricket, tennis, anything that really tickles my fancy. But it will be mainly football, it will be mainly Formula One, and it will be mainly baseball. But we've got some NFL for you as well. Hopefully in the coming, hopefully we'll get on to some NFL pre-season later on today. So where do you start a new podcast? Where do you start sort of a new chapter in your life, really? Because for those who don't know, I was a sim racing broadcaster, commentator for about 10 years. That's no longer the case. It makes me a little sad. But there are other things and other ways of making yourself happy, and I think that this hopefully will be one of them. So let's get on to the first topic. And since I am wearing this shirt, Leeds United is going to be the first topic. And the championship season's begun. We've played 2 games. We did lose in the first round of the League Cup to Middlesbrough as well. But we played Portsmouth at Elland Road and we drew 3-3. And we've also played West Brom at the Hawthorns and drew 0-0 in what I can only really describe as being one of the worst games of football that I've ever seen in my life. It was shocking. But my point is going to be on this situation that a lot of Leeds fans, for me at least, are overreacting in quite a big way to the start of this season. I think it's far too early for any of this overreaction. You know, it's a 46-game season. It's a long slog, is the Championship. You know, it's the Premier League is a tough league. It's a very, very hard league, but that's more in that the top teams are quite a step up maybe from the rest of the league. In the Championship, anybody can beat anybody. We've seen it many, many times. You know, Leeds have spent a lot of seasons in the Championship over the last few years, and for me, even though we came into this season as the title favourites, it's never a guarantee of anything in the Championship. And we played Portsmouth, we dominated the game, we had a fantastic performance. For me anyway, I thought it was a really good performance. We lost goals to, let's face it, a goalkeeping error, a fantastic strike from outside the box, and a penalty which listening to people analyse it, talk about the situation, a lot of people were saying it was 50-50. So yeah, 2 points dropped realistically, but I don't see an issue. You know, people saying, "Oh, 3 goals conceded." We weren't outright bad defensively. We had a couple of dodgy moments, which we do usually in nearly every game, but we weren't outright bad defensively. I won't accept that, really. And the West Brom game, we were a lot more solid defensively, but going forward there was nothing. Precisely nothing. I don't remember anything really decent from us going forward at all. And Middlesbrough, I didn't watch it, I was at work, but I think, I'll be honest, my level of being bothered for that is somewhere between 0 and hardly any at all. We, you know, we're probably better off being knocked out in the first round, as much as you'd like a cup run. Everyone would like a cup run, right? We get into these situations sometimes, though, where having a long cup run can kibosh your league position. And a promotion challenge, which is really the be-all and end-all in the Championship. New signings have come in. Only a couple. Jayden Bogle, Joe Rothwell. They're the two who are in and around the first team squad. And people have been a bit harsh on Bogle, I think, to begin with. You know, I think going forward he's very good. I've got to confess I didn't really see a lot of him at Sheffield United, but you know, I heard he was solid. I heard he was sort of fullback who can make an impact. We saw that against Portsmouth as well. You know, he would have had the assist for Aronson if Aronson had had his radar on straight for the in the last minute. But he put in a couple of good crosses, which weren't taken up on, shall we say, by the strikers. So I think in general Bogle is a good addition. I think Joe Rothwell's a good addition as well. He's a player who, yeah, he's been around. He's been in a few different clubs, quite a few loans. Started Man United, I believe. But he doesn't. He's a really good professional who doesn't make mistakes. In a high volume of them anyway. And so that's exactly what Leeds United need for me. We need a solid midfield option who can be versatile, who can get stuck in and brings some experience both in the Premier League and the Championship that he can draw on and make us better. Obviously the outgoings are quite significant. Archie Gray, Crescencio Somerville, Rutte looks like he's on his way out, Jorginho. And a lot of people are turning around and saying, well, you know, how are we going to replace those players? How are we going to restock on that quality that these guys have brought us? And for me, we've got a good squad. I don't know if we need major incomings. We've certainly brought a lot of money in from these deals. I don't think by the time, I will just quickly check, but I'm not even sure the Rutte deal is... Oh, it is now done. Okay, 14 hours ago it was actually done. So Brighton have completed the signing of French forward Jorginho Rutte for a club record fee of £40 million on a 5-year deal. Now, you listen to some fans and you think the sky is falling. And Rutte was certainly a player who we we've grown to love. You know, he came in that relegation season when we were really, really struggling, and it didn't seem like that the management trusted him to play and to perform. And maybe he didn't want to be here at first, potentially as well. So we did hear that he, he found it difficult to leave Hoffenheim. But and some people saying without Rute we're not going to do anything this season. Well, he had only scored 8 goals in 66 games for Leeds, which, don't get me wrong, I like the guy. I think he's a good player. I think he's got great potential. Because he's still only 22. People these days they talk about 22 as if it's like the time when he should be the finished article. But Rute, for me, he's a work in progress. But I think once the progress comes, it'll be really great progress, and I think he definitely has the talent, the skill set to become a top striker in the Premier League. So I hope he can do that. It will be great if he does. I'm rooting for him. He seems like a great guy. So Rute, Somerville, Gray. Also officially as well, Sinisterra. I believe that was. I think that was always agreed to be permanent, but it officially became, I think, permanent, and I think we officially got the money this summer. I'm not actually certain on that, but that's what I read last week. Glenn Kamara has gone as well. I think that was 10 million quid or thereabouts. So we've brought a lot of money in. The question is under the what is it? It's not financial fair play, is it? What is it? Profit and loss, profit and sustainability, or something like that. That's the question of whether we're going to be able to actually spend a lot of that money to replace those players. And whether we need to replace them is a matter of opinion. I do think we need some more depth in the squad now that Somerville especially has gone. I think we do need another winger. I'm a little surprised that we didn't try to bring Jadon Anthony in on a permanent deal, given the fact that I think he was very effective for us, really, when he played last year. But yeah, a winger, some help in the wing department would definitely be something, and maybe another striker. But I mean, you've got Bamford, you've got Joseph, you've got Peru. I mean, realistically, you look at those three, and in theory, that should be a good enough strike force to get you out of the Championship. But Bamford is still trying to rediscover his fitness. Joseph, as good as I'm sure he will be, he's still pretty inexperienced, and Peru seems to have lost his way. I haven't really. It's strange, when he came in, he was scoring goals, he was seemingly getting in the right places, and then I feel like he's been somewhat a square peg in a round hole in terms of tactically and physically. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Peru. I think he can certainly turn it around. He's a proven double-digit goal scorer in this league. Whether he can bring that form back this year is another matter. I still think the squad is good enough to go up automatically. I still think we are well equipped to do so. I do think we need to spend a little bit of money. I'm not going to say we don't need to sign someone for 30-40 million quid, but we do need to reinforce, rebuild, and then hopefully reclaim our place in the Premier League. But it's going to be a good season, isn't it? And it's going to be watching Leeds is never easy, and you know, I've been doing it for 30 years or so, so been through it all really, and we're in for another ride this year, and hopefully a promotion at the end of it. Oh, a season prediction I had written down as something to talk about. Burnley are looking very good, aren't they? Burnley are looking excellent so far. So it does look like it'll be them. It's early days, isn't it? It's too early for anybody to say who's going to be up there. But they are looking likely to be one of the promotion favourites, and I think we're up there with them. I think we'll finish second. That's why I'm going to put. If I was going to put any money down on that, I am a betting man, but not very often anymore. So if I was going to put any money down on that, I would put it down on us being promoted in second place. So we're going to change a little bit of tack now, and I'm going to talk some F1 as the summer break is finishing. Summer break it's done. It is done. It is dusted, and it is over. Teams are allowed to work again. So if you're not aware, it's a 3-week break between the Belgian Grand Prix and the Dutch Grand Prix, which is coming up on the 25th, this Sunday at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. local time. And 3-week period where teams are not allowed to. The factories are shut down. Everything's shut down. The manufacturing, everything. Apart from things like social media and things like that. Although I think a lot of the social media people do get a little bit of a break. I think they record a lot of the stuff before this break to make it fair. And yeah, looking forward to the Dutch Grand Prix. It's been a good season, hasn't it? We were fearing at the beginning of the year that this was going to be another walkover for Red Bull, Max Verstappen. Sergio Perez was up there in nearly every race as well. Then, something happened, didn't it? Something happened around the Chinese Grand Prix, Miami Grand Prix, where suddenly McLaren especially, but Ferrari, Mercedes, they've all closed in. And now it's very even between the top 4 teams. It seems to be. When I started watching F1, I'm thinking 1997, 2003, two of my favourite seasons, where there were 4 or 5 teams who could win races. And it would depend on track conditions. It would depend on the suitability of the tyres, because we had 2 tyre manufacturers. And, any one of those top 10 drivers could win on any given day. And I feel like that's the case here. We've got 8 drivers. Well, we've got 4 teams, 8 drivers who have race-winning machinery on any given day. Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull and McLaren. We've had wins. We've had 7 different winners this year. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, Sir Lewis Hamilton and George Russell have all tasted the bubbly for the top step of the podium. Excuse me. Russell, of course, would have got a second win in Belgium if it wasn't for the underweight car that he suffered from and was rightly disqualified, but it was a heartbreaker for the British driver who had driven a really good race, but you've got to wonder, how did he drive that race? He was a few kilos underweight. Maybe that's why Lewis Hamilton couldn't overtake him in the closing laps. Now, the Dutch Grand Prix, it's traditionally been Max Verstappen territory, hasn't it? And I think Verstappen is going to be the favourite here again, just because of it's his home race, because of his expertise around here. However, we did see, didn't we, in Belgium and indeed in Hungary, that the Red Bull just not handling very well at all. A lot of understeer, and then it was understeer turning into oversteer. I mean, we know Perez hates that kind of unstable rear end, because he likes that to be a bit more planted, and that's one of the reasons why Max loves that kind of pointy pointy front end, lively rear, which allows him to get the most out of the car, whereas Perez doesn't like that, and that's partly, I think, why Sergio Perez has been struggling so much this year. And I am a little bit surprised that they didn't replace him, to be honest. I think I like Sergio Perez a lot. Been a fan of his for a while. I remember those great performances in 2012 when he nearly won races in the Sauber against Fernando Alonso, when he did actually win in Bahrain with Force India. And I think he's had a really good career. This is now his 13th season. I just think that for Red Bull in particular, it's time for a change. I cannot see is anyone telling me that realistically Daniel Ricciardo, Yuki Tsunoda, Liam Lawson, maybe even Isaac Hadjar, Dennis Hauger, Ayumu Iwasa, are you really telling me that they would have suffered the same fate as what Perez did in Belgium, of starting front row in the best position as well? Like, second place at Spa is the best position to start the race from. Are you telling me that Danny Rick, Yuki, all those guys would have dropped out? I can't see that. I just think that the Perez Red Bull experiment is over. Not experiment, because it's been there for 3 years, but I think the relationship has run its course. I don't think that it's now mutually beneficial. I think that Red Bull, I just think it's exhausted its usefulness to Red Bull in that sense. I mean, look, Perez hasn't been on the podium since China. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9 races have passed since then, and he's not been on the podium, and to be honest, he's not even looked like he's had a sniff of it. I like the guy. I think he's a good driver. I think, he probably needs to go elsewhere and really restart his career if he wants to, which I'm sure he does. But I think he just needs to restart his career somewhere else where he's going to be the team leader, and maybe he can have the car made to his specification and not have to suffer with a car that's made for someone else, essentially. Verstappen, though, interestingly, despite the fact that really since Miami, he's been on the back foot. Since Miami, he's only won 2 races out of the 9. Oh, sorry, 3 years, isn't it? He's won 3 out of the 9 races. But because there's been so many different winners, I mean, in that time, Norris, Leclerc, Russell, Hamilton, and Piastri have all won races. Max has actually extended his championship lead. I mean, it's 78 points. So I think that's sewn up. I think unless he makes some sort of severe mistakes, unless they have some real reliability issues, I think that is completely so. Look, Max. I don't think Max will be the fastest driver over the second half of the season, but I think he's good enough to, even when he's not on his day, I think he's good enough to pick up the podiums. And I think at this point, all podiums is really all he needs. Because, Lando Norris isn't going to win every single race. Or Charles Leclerc, or Oscar Piastri, Carlos Sainz, Lewis Hamilton, they're really the only people who are really in somewhat of contention. Even probably you could even probably rule out Hamilton from that. But yeah, Max I think has got it sewn up. I do think the Constructors' Championship is interesting though, where it's only 42 points between McLaren and Red Bull, and it's only another 21 points to Ferrari. So I think McLaren have the fastest car at the moment. It's very close between them and Mercedes, I think, and then Red Bull are very close behind, Ferrari very close behind. I think Red Bull and Ferrari are on pretty even keel, but obviously Red Bull have Max Verstappen, and I think that's a big difference maker in this championship. The other F1 thing I wanted to talk about was Carlos Sainz's move to Williams, and some people are sort of saying, well, Carlos, he's in a bit of a dead end now. I disagree. I think James Vowles has got Williams in a really good position. I think that they are really... realizing... I think they're really realizing what it is to make a successful team. Once again, because I think that Williams, when I was growing up, they were a stalwart of Formula One. They were the force and the ones to beat. And then as time's gone on, they've slipped further and further down, and I think that was a combination of probably poor management and the sport being in a bit of a decline, let's be honest, around that time. In that sort of late 2010s period where, 2016, 2017, where I'll be honest, I didn't even really enjoy watching Formula One anymore, and I didn't really care if I missed races. Before, it was sort of when Liberty took over and before the advent of, some people say that the F1 theme, the F1 intro theme, was the start of when the sport started getting better. I would probably agree with that, because it made the sport more fun again. They wanted to get people involved in fan engagement to go up, and I think it really has. Anyway, back to the point in hand, and Williams. They've only got 4 points this season. Last season they finished 7th in the Constructors' Championship, which was a marked improvement. And you look back and 10th, 8th, 10th, 10th. Then you've got to go all the way back to 2017 when they were 5th for any real shoots of any sort of goodness and recovery, They were 3rd in 2015, 3rd in 2014. So people saying, "Oh, they've always been a backmarker team." Well, you either haven't been watching the sport, or you've simply not been paying attention, because they definitely have been up there with in the hybrid era, at least. But they did lose their way in the middle. They lost their way technically. They lost their way in terms of management and ownership. But for me, under James Fowles, they're back. They're back into being a competent outfit. They're back into being a concern that really does improve year upon year. And I think they have improved this year. I do. I think that they're in a better position. They're a lot more consistent. There hasn't been any races really where they've been the slowest car. And for Carlos Sainz, a man who he's won 3 F1 races now, once you win more than one, you've proved that you can do it. You've proved that you are good enough to command a top seat. And Carlos Sainz, circumstances have worked against him. Lewis Hamilton going to Ferrari, someone was always going to bite the bullet there, and it unfortunately was Sainz. Somewhat unfairly, I think, because he's been good this season as Carlos. And I think he's only 15 points behind Charles. You've got to ask yourself, is it fair that he gets booted out of the team in favour for Lewis Hamilton? Probably not. But it's Lewis Hamilton, right? It's arguably the greatest driver to ever put the helmet on. And if you're Ferrari, would you be a little bit silly to not, if you can get Lewis Hamilton in your car, for you not to do that? I think you might be. So it'll be interesting to see what Hamilton does against Leclerc, because Carlos has been a good teammate for him, a good adversary, and a good they've got a good relationship as well, those two. So hopefully Lewis and Charles can get a good relationship together as well for Ferrari, and with any luck they can push on to the front of the grid. Once again, they're in a good position though. They could potentially, given a good second half of the season, there is a small chance they could win the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari. So it's not completely done and dusted for them. But they've obviously they're on the back foot a little bit against McLaren at this point. The second Mercedes seat is of interest as well. Antonelli is Antonelli seems to be in pole position for this seat. Now, for me, I might sound like a killjoy, I might sound like a bit of a wet blanket, all of the above, but for me, Antonelli, I've watched more F2 this year than I have the last couple of years, just because of how things have worked out with work and timings and things. I've been able to watch a lot more F2, and I've probably watched more F2 than I have F1 actually. But I think Antonelli needs another year in F2. He's very raw. He's very good. I just think one more year in F2 would really suit his development, and I think it would make him a better driver. I think chucking him into the Mercedes, I don't know. I just think he could sink. And I wouldn't want that for a driver who definitely will be an F1 driver, and I'm almost certain he'll win races in Formula 1 going forward because he just has that amount of talent. I just think putting him in against, a very accomplished operator like George Russell in his first season in Mercedes could be a bit of a disaster. Not necessarily for Mercedes, but you could argue there's nothing to lose if you put a rookie like that in. You could argue that seat then becomes forfeit. But if he gets in a few spots, he is a very aggressive driver, wheel to wheel, and I think if he gets into a few spots, it could potentially cost quite a lot of points. I think he's tremendous. I think he's a tremendous talent. I just think one more year in F2 and then a move to Formula 1 would be perfect. The only thing that seems to be... It's almost like Mercedes are damned if they do and damned if they don't, though, because they have this opening now with Hamilton leaving. And I guess it's almost easier to put Antonelli in, isn't it? It's almost easier to fill that seat with someone who's going to be there for the long term than it is to, say, get a rental driver, for instance, for a year. Get somebody who's going to fill the seat for one season and then be on their way. Which some people were talking about Alonso when it was the early negotiations, the early stages and things, but Antonelli could be the move. It could be the move. I'm not his biggest fan. Potentially, you could have gone and got Ocon or something for a season. I could have even got Hulkenberg for a season or two, and then you bring Antonelli in. But Hulkenberg's gone his own path. He's gone to Sauber, back where he was in 2013. So I think that could all resolve itself in that pretty well, I think, for all parties. So I wish Antonelli well if he does get the seat. I think it's going to be a difficult job to go up against George. I do, but yeah, I think he can. I hope he can do it. I hope he can do it. I don't wish anything bad upon him. I do think he can do it, but I just hope it's not too much too soon. That's all I'm saying. Right. Let's talk about the NFL quickly. The NFL preseason. Shock horror, right? I'm going to talk about Lewis Rees-Zammit. And former Wales Rugby Union international. He's 23 years old. For those who don't know, he played for Gloucester, he played for Wales, he played for the British and Irish Lions. And ironically, they were playing the Detroit Lions the other day, which is my team. So the Detroit Lions, putting paid to the reigning Super Bowl champions. 24-23. It's only pre-season, guys. Come on. But yeah, by the way, what a season for the Detroit Lions last season. The best one I can remember in all the time. I've supported the team, which is 21 years. We've been very bad in a lot of seasons. We turned it around last year. Jared Goff was fantastic. Amon-Ra St. Brown. We've got a great group now, and I think we can push on and potentially we can challenge this season. Anyway, Lewis Rees-Zammit. He's been playing pre-season football for the Chiefs. He's trying to get a spot on the 53-man roster. And there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of debate about whether he'll get a place on the team or whether he'll be sent to the practice squad. Now, you hear this a lot over the days, weeks, months, and years. That, if this program keeps going, but for me, I think you'd be daft. I think with these new kickoff rules, I think with the fact that offenses and defenses are trying to get more creative, trying to find different ways around certain situations, I think that Reece Zammit is going to be somebody who, putting him on the roster, it's like having 4 or 5 different special teams players. And you've got a reserve running back or a reserve receiver. He can tackle, he can run, he can kick. I don't know if he can throw. He might be able to throw. I don't know, but he's somebody for me who offers great utility, and he's only going to get better as well if you put him in. And also, it's not just somebody who's learning NFL football, just a rugby player. It's a guy who's playing at the highest level of rugby union. It's just as professional, it's just as skill orientated and team orientated as American football. So this is an elite athlete, it's an elite international athlete. It's a guy who has that mentality. I think you'd be daft to not put him on the team. He doesn't have to play a hell of a lot. He just has to maybe play some special teams, maybe take a few of those interesting kickoffs that we've seen, maybe take a few carries as a running back, but he doesn't have to play loads and loads. He's brand new, he's a rookie. Have him on the roster, and I tell you now, he will improve, he will be a success, and the Chiefs will be a better football team with Reece Zammit on it. Okay. Baseball now. And excuse me. Baseball now. Colorado Rockies. That's what I'm going to talk about. So, they've been my team for 15 years. And the like Leeds United, like the Detroit Lions, we've had a lot of ups and downs over the years that I've been watching Rockies baseball. And the record is 46-79, right? It's not a great record. You look at the standings in the NL West, and the Rockies are 17 games behind anybody else. Granted, it's the best division, right? It's probably the best division in baseball because you've got 4 teams over 500. The Dodgers are 74-52. Padres are 71-55. Diamondbacks are 70-56, and the Giants are 64-63. It's difficult, right? It is difficult versus the division. It has been for sure. But I've really seen a lot of shoots of improvement, and this is my first year in maybe 10 years or so watching all the games. I've watched nearly all the games since April. I've only missed a handful of games. I want to talk primarily about 2 players. I want to talk about Brenton Doyle. I want to talk about Brenton Doyle, and I want to talk about Ryan McMahon. Doyle has been fantastic this year. He's a for those who don't know, he's a second year player. He's 24. Centre fielder. And last season, he averaged 203 with the bat. His OPS was 593, right? Which is not good at all, really. Played in 126 games, 10 home runs, 48 runs batted in, and he struck out 151 times. And he only walked 22 times. This season he's played 120 games, he's hit 20 home runs, he's batted in 60 runs, he's walked 38 times, and he's batting 267 with an OPS of 794, which is a hell of a lot better. It's a massive improvement. So his offense has been tremendous. He was the player of the month in July, was it? Yeah, it was July. And he's been brilliant. But one of the reasons why he's so good is his defense. He's a Gold Glove. He won a Gold Glove in his rookie season, which is almost unheard of. He's going to win another one this season. It's almost certain. I think he's in contention for the Platinum Glove. He is that good. When you watch him, every single night, he makes play after play after play. He makes very, very difficult plays look easy. You know. And that's the key to a great defender. And it's a fantastic... We've got great defence. That's the thing with the Rockets. We have great defence. That infield of Tolia, Brendan Rodgers, Tovar, and McMahon, I think it's the best infield in baseball. There's no question about it for me. The defense is astonishing. Doyle in the outfield just adds to that. And I think we're definitely putting the building blocks in place for a very, very successful core, right? Doyle's in there. Ryan McMahon as well has been sensational over at third base with the glove. He's been good with the bat. He's struggled a bit since, to be fair, he's struggled a decent amount since the All-Star break. It's not been great, to be honest. The last 30 games, he's only batting 141 in the last 30 games. He's been very poor with the bat. However, with the glove, he's been monumental. You know, he's up there. He's Nolan Arenado standard over there at third. He's been wonderful with the glove, and I think that I think he should be in contention for the Platinum Glove as well. Some of the things I've seen him do this season: diving stops, blind throws, jumping throws against his body from 100 feet plus away. Sensational. And I think he needs to get the Platinum Glove. And that's the end of that for me. He just needs to get it. So MLB, they won't be watching this. But give that man the Platinum Glove. I think he deserves it. Him or Doyle. And then the other Rockies thing I wanted to talk about. A little bit of a sad one, actually, is Elias Diaz. So this week, Elias Diaz was placed on the outright waivers and then unconditionally released. And it's tough because he was the All-Star Game MVP in 2023. He's been a stalwart behind the plate for a few years now for Colorado. And it was done to basically move him out of the way of Drew Romo, who's a young catching prospect, a switch hitter. I'm a bit sad about this. I think he's been a great part of this team, but I do think that I think they could have tried to trade him. The Denver Post here is saying that we don't buy the Rockies' assertions there wasn't a market for the 33-year-old. He was struggling with calf issues, which meant that he was struggling to run. But they were getting better. You're telling me, and I agree with this. I do agree with this this article in that he's buying 270. He's buying 270 as a catcher. He was great at throwing runners out, 28%. And I just think you could have got something for Elias Diaz. Getting nothing for him is kind of mad, really. I think Diaz. It says in this article that Diaz deserves better, and to be honest, I think he deserved better than just being unceremoniously released in the middle of the season. But yeah, I think there was a market for Diaz. I think someone would have taken him even as a backup. I think saying that there was nothing, nobody was interested. I think there's a little bit madness, honestly, because he's better than most starting catchers in the league, let alone the. And some people are saying, "Oh, his OPS wasn't very good." That's probably down to the fact that he can't run, though. He's not going to get on base a lot if he can't bloody run. Is he? Really? When I'm saying he can't run, he really couldn't run. For a couple of months, he could barely run. So, of course, he's going to get on base more if he can run. His hitting isn't the problem. His defense isn't the problem. It used to be. It's not anymore. His defense is good now. He's worked hard on it. But I don't buy the fact that nobody was interested, and neither does the Denver Post, and I agree with them. Who's written this article, to give the proper credit? Sean Keeler. Yeah, and he's saying, well, similar to the fact that they didn't get anything for Trevor Story or John Gray. Yeah, I think that's a poor decision. Just to release him, I think they should have. If you were going to get rid of Diaz, if you didn't want Diaz playing for your club, if you didn't think that he was the man for the future, which he probably isn't. He's 33. Trade him. There was a trade deadline. Trade him for a 15th round pick and a box of peanuts. I don't know. You probably can't trade draft picks in baseball, actually, can you? Maybe you can. I don't know. I can't remember. I used to think you couldn't for some reason. Somebody can correct me on that, I'm sure, in the comments afterwards. Trade him for something, though. Jesus. There you go. Well, thank you, Elias Diaz, right? Thank you, Elias Diaz. Because I've enjoyed watching you play. I think that you've been a great servant to this team. And I'm going to miss you. And I think a lot of Rockies fans will miss you. So, gracias, Elias. And, we'll see you down the road. I'll be rooting for you wherever you end up. So the final thought I have today, before I wrap it up, is to just talk a little bit about the Paris Olympics. We might do it in a bit more detail. I'll have to see if I can shoehorn it into maybe a future program. I don't know. But I'm going to take 5 minutes or so to just talk about the Olympics and how much I love it, how much I think it just invigorates me, right? I was lucky enough to have a week off work during Paris 2024, and loved every minute of it. Loved every minute of watching the the myriad of sports, and now it's over. I feel a bit down. I feel a little bit deflated because it's always a great time. It's just a great time, and it gives you, like, in this world where people are fighting and war and racism and violence and all this. It does give you hope. It's cheesy to say, but it does give you hope that the world can just get on and have fun together and compete together. What a tally for Great Britain. 7th in the medal table with 65 medals, 14 gold. Now the gold tally was down a little bit. There were so many close ones. So many close run things though, like Adam Peaty, Josh Kerr, Matt Hudson-Smith. A couple of medals in the track cycling as well. It was super, super close to being gold. Overall medal tally, we were third in overall medals. And I just think it stands to... It's a testament to just how well we've done over the last so many years. Well, over the last 28 years, really, since Atlanta. Atlanta was the first Olympics that I remember watching a great deal of. I watched a bit of Barcelona 92. I knew Barcelona 92 was going on, but I was a toddler, so I do remember some things from Barcelona, but it's very hazy. Whereas Atlanta, I remember quite a lot. I remember watching Matt Pinson and Steve Redgrave get the one gold medal that Great Britain achieved. One gold medal. You know, one gold medal gets you on the medal table. Now it gets you a minimum of where Poland were 42nd place, Israel 41st place with one gold medal. It's not about position on the medal table, but don't get me wrong, it is an indicator of just how amazing that our athletes are and just how fantastic the whole organisation of the British team has been. And just how we've risen to the challenge over so many years. But such a void now, all the sports finished. I know there's other sport going on, right? I've been watching some of the golf, PGA Tour golf, this week. I've been watching some football, now that's back. But the Olympics, it's such an escape. You know, I very rarely feel happier and more content in myself than those 2 weeks between when the cauldron is lit and when the cauldron is extinguished. I don't think there's anything better, really, than the Olympics. And, you know, we'll get to do it all over again as well with the Paralympics in just 1 week. Starts on Wednesday, the 28th of August. And that'll be another 2 weeks of fantastic action and hopefully a lot of success for Great Britain in that as well. But yeah, what a 2 weeks that was, and you know that closing ceremony. Tom Cruise, man, Tom Cruise, what a guy, jumped off the bloody Stade de France. What a guy. Snoop Dogg, Michael Johnson, Red Hot Chili Peppers, everybody, fantastic. The 2028 Olympics, it's going to be a spectacle. It's going to be different to, you know, I was lucky enough to go to Los Angeles 9 years ago on holiday, and you know, it's a great place. It's going to be a lot different. There's going to be a lot of razzmatazz. There's going to be a lot of celebrity. It's going to be a lot different to how Paris was. You know, Paris is more of an old school, more of a classy, more of a, you know, an understated games, really. And we know what the Americans are like. And I mean that in a nice way. a lot of this podcast has been dedicated to American sports. But we know what they're like, and it's gonna be fun. So, but yeah, thank you everybody for watching episode 1 of the Andrew Woodhouse Show. And it was nerve-wracking for me, but I've got through it. I've managed to talk for an hour, which without losing my voice, which is another good achievement. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining me. If you have, don't it goes without saying, if you like what you see, like the video, share it with your friends and family. Subscribe to the channel for more. There will be more. The plan at the moment is for 3 to 5 of these per week. I will see if I can do that. I will try and do that. But I'm so excited to be bringing this to you. It's part of like my sort of a little bit of my mental catharsis, shall we say, my rehabilitation almost in the sphere of broadcasting, and I guess it's commentary of a different kind, now. So yeah, thank you very much everybody, and I will catch you in the next one. Take it easy.